I'm sharing it
Attention,
right now.
everybody. The views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and/or their affiliate and supported ministries and/or nonprofits. I apologize for the delay, but here they are, giving you a penny for your thoughts. Sorry about that.
Nothing to be sorry about. We're here.
We made
all
it.
here. We're ready to
Yeah.
go.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah.
Good morning.
What a blessed morning we had this morning. And I'm so excited to tell you that I spent the evening in a fishing camp. In a
Camp.
cabin.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I went out the joke is that I accidentally said in a fishing cabinet earlier, and Jay made quite an interesting comment. And
Did I make a comment?
yes, you did.
Actually,
Where was
more
I?
than one, but you know.
But I was
We'll
not
give
felt
him
like-
some leeway.
It didn't feel like a comment.
Oh, but I was on Indian Point this morning.
Indian
Last
Point.
night, my husband just wanted to get away. He works in Indian Point, so we went to stay in Indian Point. How do you like that?
Genius.
And we had a great time. And I went down there. It was a little bit late getting there last night. And of course, I kept going down, and I'm like, where is this place? And I kept going down in the dark, and there's no lights. And the next thing, my headlights are like, water.
Whoa.
Water. Back up. So anyway, it was a wonderful evening. It
Was
was
there fish?
cool. It's beautiful. I didn't see any fish actually, but evidently there were fishermen and women on either side of our cabin, not the cabinet, the cabin.
Right.
And but last night we went out and we got our pajamas on and a cup of coffee, non-caffeinated. And we
What?
sat, yeah.
There's such
We
a thing.
sat on the what is that called, a porch out in front. It was little, it was sweet, the water was wonderful, it was cool air, just comfortable, blessing. So in the name of Jesus, let's just come before him. Lord, we just give you praise right now because you've got a message for the people.
Yes.
You've got a message from our heart. And Lord, we're just excited to be here to bring that message that Nehemiah delivers in the book of Nehemiah. In the name of Jesus, we thank you. Amen. Oh, let's get going. I'm so glad you're here, Dana. It was so good to see you. I got to see you yesterday.
Yeah,
Yes,
for
ma'am.
It
the
was
first
such
time in a
joy.
while.
Oh my gosh, you've been doing 2 jobs now.
Yes.
Yep. And
Yes.
what is your other job?
I am a nurse aide at a memory care facility.
Thank you so much.
Memory care?
Yes.
Yeah. That explains why she's with me because my short-term memory is about this long. So, yeah.
Now.
I would be with you forever, and you know that.
What are we talking about again?
Memory care.
I forgot.
I don't remember. What were we talking about? Fishing. You were fishing on that
We were
one.
something about fishing.
We were welcoming Dawn back
Yeah.
Yes,
after
welcome
a
back.
hiatus.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your new job.
Thank you.
And thank you for the service you give to others. That is
Yes.
really
my
important.
honor.
And on top, it's your honor.
It's my privilege. It really is.
Oh,
I get to usher people in and cuddle and take care of them and at their worst moments, but I get to see the glory in it as well.
oh, how neat, Dawn. That is so cool. And Dana, this morning you're here, and we saw each other
Yes.
yesterday. We had an interesting experience yesterday. I was carrying some things in last night from the shop, and this is the first experience I've had in a long time. There was this cute little plaque, and it said, "Bless our home." And as I was carrying it in, I looked and I went, "Where are the where's the pennies that we
Right.
put on it?"
And the
And it was
cross.
gone. And the cross. There
And
was
the
a little
cross.
cross with a penny on it. And I looked and there was something torn, so someone had pried this off of the plaque. And when I went back out and walked out, there it was on the ground. So someone had taken it off. And you know, I tend to forget because I'm in Branson that there are some people who do not like Christians.
Right.
And
Right.
they really do not like us.
Right. Dawn and I were part of a prayer chain down in Branson this weekend. And, you know, it's very interesting as you're standing on the street corner. The people that are doing, yeah, woo, you know, hawking the horns like in
Right.
a positive, and those that just like, you know, ignore you or like glare. Thankfully, we didn't run into any people that were super hostile, at least to our face.
Right.
Although there was like maybe one comment,
Yes.
but that doesn't bear repeating. But it really is surprising who can be on the side of the Lord and who is really not. It really is surprising. And so God has people everywhere, and so even in the hot spots of believers where there is a stronger presence, there's always those
Right. Right.
that are there.
I think there's that whole thing too. We talk about tolerance today, but the truth is there's a lot of intolerance. But it's always existed. So we've been looking at Nehemiah. We talked about the story about him, that he had actually been part of the king's court in
Yes.
Babylon, and it was King Artaxerxes. And I mentioned last week that maybe the reason he got favor to go back to Jerusalem after he had prayed and God had laid on his heart to go back and build the wall around Jerusalem that had been torn down
Yes.
for, what was it, about 56 years? Or no, it was 100 and some years that wall had been down. 129 years, I think it was, somewhere around there. But anyway, the good news was he had this heart, even though he'd never been to Jerusalem.
Right.
He was born in Babylon. He is working in a cushy job in the king's, well, it's not that cushy, but he's in the king's castle.
yeah.
It could be worse, you know, and in his palace. And he goes to the king says to him, why do you have such a sour face, a sour presence? And he says to the king the truth. I feel like I have to go back to Jerusalem. Now it's interesting. He's part of the remnant that was taken captive in Jerusalem, or from Jerusalem into Babylon. He's part of that. He's now part of the kingdom, so to speak, and supporting the king of Babylon. And he says, I feel like I'm supposed to go back and help rebuild the walls. Can you imagine? I mean, here you are, the king going, King Artaxerxes. That's the best that I can pronounce it. I can't do it in the Hebrew.
That's all right.
And so he looks at him and he's like, well, okay, if that's what you really feel, how long are you going to be gone? And he gets to send him on his way. But what was so powerful about Nehemiah was he didn't just go, oh, God is calling me to Jerusalem, let me
Right.
go. He didn't do that. He planned. And as he began to plan, he got permission, he got the papers so that he could grab onto some of the cedar trees from the forest, the king's forest. He got permission to go on,
Right.
pass through each of the countries and the areas that he would go through safely and get to Jerusalem.
And as you read through the book, you see at each step and at each crossroads, he takes time to pray.
Yes.
He takes time to pray before each step, just like David did. Lord, should I go out against this battle? Just because God told you to go out against the last battle doesn't mean that the next battle will be exactly the same.
Thank you.
Exactly.
So he took the time to pray, but as he was making his plans.
But you have to do that in everyday life. And
Exactly.
a lot of us don't do that. We get to the step the Lord says, okay, go do this. We go jump and leap of faith, go do it. And then we wonder why we failed at it, because we didn't ask God, what is the steps, the plan,
How to do it.
how to approach this, how to do this. And if we did that more, we as Christians
Uh-huh.
would find that our lives are more successful. But we tended to go, okay, God, you told me, let's go, you know, and be ahead of it.
Successful as in God's purposes
Right.
are being, not maybe success as what others would define
Right.
it, but at least God's purposes being fulfilled, being defined as
I
success.
like the word fulfilled versus success.
Right.
That his purposes are being fulfilled. That's pretty powerful because our society talks about success. So what is success? The six-figure job, you know, the big house, you know, the nice car, all of those things. The thing is, do I need the nice car or the airplane to meet and fulfill God's purpose? Sometimes the answer is yes.
Right.
Sometimes the answer is no, I don't need an helicopter to get me from here to Branson. You know, if I were in Dallas, Texas, I might need a helicopter to get from one place to the other.
You probably would. Traffic, avoid traffic. But it's so important to see God's face.
Right.
And we've lost that. And that's the sad thing. We've lost relationship with the Father. And we've lost taking time to be with Him. because he's got all the answers. I don't. I
Right.
mean, when I was approached with the opportunity to work at this nursing home, I'd already worked at this nursing home before. And I had to decide, God, is this really where you want me to go back?
And is it the right timing?
Is it the plan you have for me or no? You know, because I was like, I don't know, you know. And I really spent some time saying, hey, okay, God, it's up to you. When I was approached for the second job, and it was helping Miss Susan, it was like, do I have, number one, God, do I have the time to fulfill what you want me to fulfill with her?
Uh-huh.
Because she's calling me to this, and you're calling me, I believe, to this. But do I have that time, or are you going to make that time available?
Well, and sometimes he adapts it
Exactly.
so that it works.
Exactly. I said, but I want your purpose
Yes.
and your will. And yesterday was purpose.
Great. So with that, let's get started on Nehemiah. We read 1 and 2, and we know that he's been well on his way already to Jerusalem. And Nehemiah has already taken his horse. He's gone around. He's tried to take it up to different gates, literally could not get through the gates. And he continues to circle. He was there 3 days. He never really told anybody why he was there, but he was there 3 days before he even approached anybody. So, Dana, you want to take it over here
Yes.
in chapter.
Chapter 3, verse 1.
Thank you.
Then Eliashib the high priest rose up with his brethren the priests, and they built the sheep gate. They sanctified it, and set up the doors of it. Even unto the towers of Meah they sanctified it, unto the tower of Hananel. And next unto him builded the men of Jericho, and next unto them builded Zachar the son of Imri. But the fish gate did the sons of Hassanah build, who also laid the beams thereof, and set up the doors thereof, and the locks thereof, and the bars thereof. So they're doing the whole everything.
Right.
And next unto them repaired Meremoth the son of Urijah the son of Koz. And next unto them repaired Meshullam the son of Berechiah the son of Meshizabil. And next unto them repaired Zadok the son of Baana. And next unto them the Tekoites repaired. But their nobles put not their necks to the work of the Lord. And I could just kind of sit there and hold a little bit of a meeting on that verse.
Uh-huh.
The nobles put not their necks to the work. That really is a
The nobles, who are the nobles? The nobles are the
big names,
the rulers.
the rulers,
kings,
the big names, those with the money, those with a lot to lose, this, that, and the other, those with the high names of lineage and stuff like that. There really is most of the time
Right.
you'll have a good leader like Nehemiah,
Yeah.
and then the people. Once the person from the outside, I mean, how many stories have to be written like this?
Right.
Right.
The person comes in from the outside, the people rise up, woohoo, let's do this. But the ruling class,
The ruling. There it is. The ruling.
the
class.
ruling class, all throughout history, you see this pattern
Yes.
throughout history. It keeps repeating itself. And then the few times, like in our own revolution, when those with means, we give our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. When you have the unity of those, of the manpower, those with the means to finance it,
Right.
and the leadership, that's when the magic happens.
Right.
That's when the magic happens. And so it's really is an example that there really is nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And I think we see a lot of that even right now.
Okay.
Yes.
People that need to stand up
Right.
and could make even more of an impact. We have Nehemiahs, we have, these individual leaders rising up. We have the grassroots in America rising up that this needs to be done. But those in leadership positions, the nobles as it were, the senators, the congressmen, those that actually could do a lot more to actually make the groundwork of more effect,
Right.
they're scared.
Yes.
And they're not as effective as they could be.
Well, the other thing is, like, Nehemiah had the wisdom to walk past them.
Right.
No need to even approach them, and they're not going to be happy with him rebuilding, because everything, as far as they were concerned, in the midst of the ruins, they were still doing well. But they didn't even see the ruins, and so it would be, why would we improve anything? Why
They
would we
put
change
not
it?
their necks to
Yeah.
the work of the Lord.
Jay?
Um, so I don't think that the nobles were any less or more than anybody else in this, though. I think it's just that in their position, their failings are much more clear, obvious. You know what I mean?
Their
There's a
feelings or their
price-
feelings.
Right. When they fail a little,
Uh-huh.
it affects a lot.
And
Because there's
yes.
a price for leadership. So in that
Yeah.
sense, they are more, because when you're in a position of leadership, the fallout, as you just said, is more. So I would contend that the results are more.
Right.
And it's just
Well, the results definitely are
Yes.
more.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. A little mistake in leadership is a much bigger mistake down the line.
Right.
And it affects a lot more people, whereas my own little mistake might not
Affects-
affect so many people.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
But that doesn't absolve me of my mistake.
Right.
Well,
No.
here's the thing. Collectively, though, your mistake, yours, and mine do start to have an impact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
And if you look at Jerusalem now, it's over 100 years. Those walls have been torn down, and the people did not come together. But they needed a leader who would be able to pull it together. They didn't even know where to start. I'm just laughing. There's a story in my life that the back room of the front room of the store looks really nice. The back room.
well.
Forget it.
Yeah. So guess what? I am so deeply entrenched in
Yes.
all of the stuff that I don't know where to begin. And what it takes is someone from the outside
To-
coming in
Yeah.
Yes.
in order to lead me out of my own mess.
Yeah.
Isn't that what Jesus did?
Yeah.
Redemption and grace. So anyway, let's go on with verse 6 now of Nehemiah chapter 3. And the Jeshanah gate was repaired by Joiada.
Which verse again?
6. And we're just using the best words we know, pronunciations. I am not the expert here. So the Jeshanah gate was repaired by Joiada, the son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Anyway, I'm going to keep on. They laid the beams and put its doors with its bolts and bars in place. Next to them, I love these words. Next to them, repairs were made by men from Gibeon and Mitzpah. Always, it's someone who is impacted. In other words, I don't have to build your house.
Right.
I don't have to repair your house or your gate. I get to repair the gate in front of me. By the way, I did some research. Those walls that they were building and the gates, the walls were 39 feet tall. And at the thinnest part of the wall, it was 8 feet. It could be anywhere from 8 feet to 28 feet wide, depending on the possibility of that being a thicker part of the wall or wherever it was.
That's interesting. But perhaps you just said something.
What's that?
They were repairing the gate in front of them.
Yes,
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're responsible to repair the gate in front of us.
right.
If Dana has something, it's my responsibility to help and repair the breach for
Mm-hmm.
her. It's your responsibility to help Jay repair his gate.
Right.
If we all did that, it wouldn't be about ourselves.
Oh, powerful. Yeah.
It wouldn't be about ourselves.
Well, and when we are, because we can't do it by ourselves. We really can't. It's too big of a project. It's too big. But when we are there side by side, helping one another and continuing it down the line,
Yes.
suddenly this powerful movement takes place. And the walls, and the values,
We'll go
the
up.
hearts, yes, it will go up. And it will be there to protect.
Exaltation only comes when we're not about ourselves.
Right. So I'm going to go on to verse 7. Next to them, repairs were made by the men from Gibeon and Mitzpah, Malatiah of Gibeon and Jadon of Meronoth, places under the authority of the governor of the Trans-Euphrates. That sounds like, what is that? The
Sounds
I'll never forget it. Okay. And then it goes on. Goldsmiths repaired the next section. Perfume makers repaired the next to that. They restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. And Raphael, son of Hur, ruler of the half-district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section. Adjoining this, Jedaiah, son of Harumph, That's my best. Made repairs opposite his house. Hattush, son of Ashabaniah. He made repairs next to him, and Malchiah, son of Hiram, and Ishub, son of someone, repaired another section of the tower of the ovens. Of course, that's where the kitchens were and the breads were made, right? Shallum, son of Holesh, ruler of the half district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section with the help of his daughters. And sorry, Jay, I know you're our male counterpart today, so we're really happy for that. But we women just had to put that in.
Thank God for women.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, without us, you wouldn't be here, right?
Exactly. That's right.
And Matt's concurring over there.
She kept me alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
And
And mamas and whoops. You know, when things spill and break, mamas are there to rescue even before it spills.
Yeah.
But
yes.
which reminds me, totally off the subject, when this fell over, it reminded me of sitting at my table when I was first divorced from the children's father, and I had a card table. And it really upset me that that's all I had was a card table and 4 folding chairs. It wasn't that I was not thankful. I was upset that I had left my home with beautiful furniture and now I had a card table with 4 chairs, until I started noticing my children dropping their water or their milk in the table. And guess what? That card table, one of the kids had stood on it, so the card table went in like this, right? So guess where all the milk went? Inside.
Onto the
Do you know how?
instead of the floor.
Yeah, instead of the floor. So it was easy to clean up. Now I look back and I thank the Lord for it. But at the time, you know, it was like, oh, I need something nicer. No, I had just what I needed for the time. And you know what? If more mothers had tables like that, they'd be less upset because all they had to do was clean out the end of the card table. With that said, the daughters were there. The Valley Gate was
It
repaired
says
by...
wise women build their house,
Ah.
Yes.
but the foolish tear it down with their own hands. Very hands-on application.
Would
for
you
that
repeat that again?
A proverb says that a wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with her own hands. Very hands-on application.
Very
Yes.
hands-on. And you know, there are many women too who have destroyed their marriages as well.
Yes.
You know, not
Yeah,
even
what does
realizing.
house mean?
Yeah, what does house mean? But if you do, I mean, when you have a husband, a family, our job, which I will just bring in because it's something I learned relatively recently. The word for when it says women, not subject yourselves to your husbands.
Husbands.
What is it?
This-
Women's
Submit.
submit to your husbands. Do most people know that the Jewish word for that, hupatasso, I believe is the word, it was actually Greek, means to come beneath and lift up and to encourage. And I think about that when Ron and I were first married. We were married 10 years ago. I would look at all the negatives and just go, I don't know why I married this man. I don't know why I married this man. You know, I just don't. And when I learned the real meaning of submit was to come beneath and lift up, guess what happened? My life changed. It got better because my prayer, I always saw it, submission was I had to be obedient to him. That's not the story. I'm obedient to the Lord himself.
Right.
And my husband is too. But when I lift my husband up and go to a fishing camp that's really barren and almost drive in the lake, no, I didn't either. All of a sudden, I see him becoming happier and more joyful
Yes.
and more relaxed. And we are rebuilding the walls of our marriage at the same time.
Sure.
And this morning, when I'm getting ready to leave, here we are at the fishing camp. My husband has gone to bed late, and the next thing I know, he's saying, would you like some cereal before you leave? He's got the cereal bowl ready for me before I'm leaving. Do you need anything else, honey? I'm going to go back to bed after you leave. And so I was out the door at 5:30 this morning, joyfully, because I had a man who lifted me up because I had lifted him up and put him first. So now we have, at the same time, we have a man called Nehemiah who's realizing the call of the Lord, being obedient to it. He prays about it, then he goes to, he begins to take action, but he gathers the people around him, and the action's being taken place as each one of the gates and each one of the walls are being repaired. And so, and the dung gate was repaired. This is verse 14. The Valley Gate had been built in 13, and then on 14, the Dung Gate. Dung Gate was where they took out the animal manure, and was repaired by the son of Rechab, the ruler of the district of Beth Karim. He rebuilt it and put its doors with their bolts and bars in place. How much easier life is when we all take a turn in helping one another with whatever it is that needs to be done. Trying to do it alone is just very difficult. The fountain gate was repaired by Shalom from Kol-Hazah, ruler of the desert, ruler of the district of Mitzpah. He rebuilt it, roofing it over and putting its doors and bolts and bars in place. He also repaired the wall of the pool of Siloam by the king's garden as far as the steps going down from the city of David. Behind him, Nehemiah, son of Azbuk, ruler of the half district of Beth Zur. He made repairs up to the point opposite the tombs of David as far as the artificial pool in the House of Heroes. Next to him, repairs were made by the Levites. And Levites, of course, were the priest under Rehum, son of Bani. Beside him, Hashabiah, ruler of the half district of Keilah, carried out repairs for his district. And next to him, repairs were made by their fellow Levites under Benui, son of Henadad. It's just amazing when you think of it. And then they repaired another section from a point facing the ascent to the armory as far as the angle of the wall. Now next to him, Baruch, son of Zabbai, zealously repaired another section from the angle to the entrance of the house of Eliashib, the high priest. And next to him, Miramoth, son of Uriah, the son of Hakos, repaired another section from the entrance of Elijahbib house to the end of it. So every time we're seeing that everyone's picking up a part of their share. And I think
That way it isn't such a big
burden.
big burden. Like when we were working in the store,
Yes.
I was working on one thing, Dawn was working on another, your friend was working on another,
Yes.
and it's changing so much faster than it would with one person.
And what's really good is I'm not there and you're changing it and I have no one to stop you. You know, because what gets in your way sometimes is the leader.
Yes.
I want to make this point. If the leader doesn't have the same vision because for whatever reason they've been cut off and they cannot see it and they're buried in the little bits and pieces that they can't rise above
Right.
it,
Complexity of it.
yeah, that's exactly what happened. I literally walked back into this store and I was like, it was like the walls were rebuilt, the boundaries had been set. I knew where to go to find this and where to go to find that, and the chains were over here. The only thing that was missing were the magnets to repair a lady's necklace. It was really funny. So you know how I did that? I just got in the car, went over to Michael's, got it, went back, fixed it, and the girls showed me where it was the next day. So we're fine. Who cares? Fortunately, we have a Michael's. But here again is when we work together as a team, you see the vision. Without the vision, it cannot be. So if you look back in the early days of the creation of these United States, there was a vision.
Yes, there was.
And this country was built upon it, like it or not. When we look at it, it all goes back to the Mayflower Compact. Anyone who wants to disagree with it can.
They
but
certainly had a multi-generational vision, that's for sure.
Yes.
It wasn't just for their own benefit or for their own safety, although that was included. They were wanting to be free to worship God the way they wanted to. But
Right.
the multi-generational vision that they had was very unique.
Yes.
I would say in their times, but certainly unique in our times. Most people do not operate on the standard of a multi-generational vision of this is a long-term movement that we are beginning. We are starting a city set on a hill. We are doing this.
To be unique and an example to the world.
Right.
And that's really true. And then you even go back, we were talking about this the other day. Thanksgiving is the result of Sukkot, which was the Jewish holiday, which goes back, even if we go back, where did the pilgrims learn about the Jewish holidays and all? It was during their time, most
Yes.
likely in Holland, when they were with the Sephardic Jews. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and help
Well, it's
me out
also
if I'm
just
wrong.
in the scriptures.
It's also
You
right
don't- you don't
there in the
have to
word,
have-
you know. I mean,
Absolutely.
It doesn't take you don't have to have a doctoral degree to read
they all
book, chapter, and verse
No.
of about Sukkot. It's in there.
It's in
Yeah.
there.
It's in there.
I mean,
And if you're a student of scriptures, you can find it.
absolutely, and when it goes back,
It took me a long time, folks. They knew it long before I did.
it's all right. But it's absolutely important. We've talked about this, and we'll probably beat it to a dead horse. History is important.
Yes.
History with God is important. Every time he did something, they built monuments to
Yes.
remember what he did.
Yes.
It's our responsibility to build the walls, to build the monuments to what he did.
Exactly.
Done.
Exactly. Oh, yep. We've come up closer to your mic. Good girl. Or pull your mic closer to your nope, to your mouth. Okay. Going on a little bit further here. So we're going to just kind of jump as
Verse?
we're at verse
Are we
actually
in
we're
chapter
going
4?
we're still in chapter 3, and we're just going to just jump down 17. We talked about next to him the repairs were made by the Levites. Go on down a little bit further. 22, the repairs next to the next one were made by priests from surrounding regions. And guess what? What do you think when they saw this wall going up? What happened?
Everybody rejoiced and was happy for them,
Oh, sure.
Yes.
right?
Right. Of course. I don't think so.
Where have you been reading? I haven't read that.
Right. I have a
But-
very highly developed sense of sarcasm, people, just in case you don't know.
But what really there were two things happening. So you had one group of people who are saying, "I like that. That's going to protect me," and they're going in and joining. But you had another group, and so we're going to
They were
turn.
like, "Drat, we can't come in and attack you every single time
well.
we want to." Those
We
were
have
the
to escape.
people. Those were the
Yes.
people that had a problem with it, which is very revelatory of the spirit that they were of.
Also, because not only that, not only will they not be able to rob them, their powers being affected
Exactly.
and their positions being affected.
Right.
So what we're going to do is now that we know this wall is being built, all the living quarters, the all, all the gates are being done. We're going to 4 now, chapter 4. And here are the words to the opposition to rebuilding. Ready? So when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall. Now, who is Sanballat? He's one of the...
He's the bad guy.
He's a bad guy. He's one of the rulers. Oh, look at this. Jay says, I don't know if he's the bad guy.
No, wouldn't say that.
Oh,
I'm saying
okay.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not as familiar with this as
Okay.
I'm oversimplifying this into like superhero terminology.
Yes.
He's the bad guy.
Was I supposed to be thinking that?
No,
Yes.
I
Yes.
just- oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
When Sanballat heard they were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the
Because
entire...
he couldn't do it by himself.
Right.
That's true.
Sorry.
And in the presence of the army, the entire army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from heaps of rubble, burned as they are?" Because these stones are actually burned. They're
Right.
nasty. They're laying all over the place. I mean, I can actually imagine. You don't have the dung gate anymore, and people may not be using it quite as well as they
Right.
used to, Anyway, so can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are? And Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, What? They are building? Even a fox climbing on it could break down their wall of stones. So that's
Are
interesting.
these stones burn? Can these bones live?
Yes, can these bones live? Absolutely not, right?
But
These
the
guys
stones
are
are symbol
idiots.
of the stones are
Right.
symbol of what we become when we get hardened.
Yeah.
And so we're hardened and we're burned and we're crumbled and we're cracked. And God goes, I can rebuild. I can bring life.
Wow. Yeah.
So those stones are us.
And the next thing that happens, though, the Jews got together, and this is what they did. They prayed.
Yeah.
And what do you think prayer is worth? Come on, let's be honest.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Every
Yes.
single step, prayer.
And if you think about it, people who look at you when you pray, they think you're a little bit crazy. They really do. If you really, really do believe in prayer, what does prayer do? Well, here's what they prayed. Here, this is in verse 4. Hear us, our God, for we are despised. And then they said this. This is interesting. This is not New Testament. This is Old Testament. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity, meaning let them experience it.
Yeah.
Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders, those who are doing what God has called them to do.
Yes.
There's always this plaque out there that says those that are, what was it? Those that are not doing it need to be quiet and stop interrupting those that are trying.
Trying to do it. Yep. So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached
That's good.
half its height.
That's a good Cliff Notes. You
Okay.
you have a verse where they're just doing this blah 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 blah. They prayed, and then they kept on doing it.
And they kept on doing it because they knew
They didn't
that was
stop.
right
They
in the
didn't
eyes
try
of
to
God.
carry on a negotiation with them. They didn't try to say, "Why don't you like me?"
Yeah.
I mean, there was no.
Don't you understand?
Don't you understand what I'm doing? There was no parlay to
No.
people that were obviously of
Not interested.
not just a brother that was of a different opinion. These were
Right.
obviously people that were enemies of the Lord, and just pray and get on about the business of the Lord.
Well, and here is what it says. If we go back to 4 in that first
So we
verse.
built the wall.
Yeah.
So we built the wall.
Yeah.
They started blabbing, so we built the wall.
But going back to what you were saying, in the very first verse, it says, when Sanballat heard they were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed, and he ridiculed the Jews.
Well, of course.
Because all throughout Scripture, the enemy's tactic is running his
Their
mouth,
mouth.
running his mouth, getting you to cast yourself down,
Yes.
getting you to make
Right.
your own decisions, because the enemy can't make you take a bite out of the fruit
Right.
of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. He can't make you tell Delilah to cut your hair. He
Right.
can't make you do these things. He can persuade you to.
Right.
Exactly.
So the power of the enemy is in
the tongue.
the tongue and
Yes,
our
the
foolishness to believe it.
and the
Faith
idea.
comes by hearing.
Right.
And we have to be careful what
And
we're
the
hearing.
power of life and death is in the tongue.
Right. He
That's-
didn't listen to it. He just prayed
just-
and built the wall.
Bye.
Well, and what's powerful, though, they were struggling a little bit, obviously.
Of course you would.
So they went to the Lord and they said in 4, hear us, our God, for we are despised.
Yep.
Turn their
Right.
insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders. I mean, just
It's God's. They're making this God's issue, just like good grief, the king, Hezekiah, just like Hezekiah.
Right.
He took and laid down the insult before the temple. God, here's what they're saying.
you take
They're
care of it.
insulting
You.
by insulting us. They are actually insulting the God of heaven, and they are insulting you.
Right.
This is your battle, and that's in essence what they're doing.
Right.
I love.
And
Yeah. Go
we
ahead.
don't pick up that battle. That's what the biggest lesson right there is. Once you lay it down before him, don't pick it up again and go, I'm going to take it back. God's like, I'm going
He
to fight
will-
for you if you
He's
just
going
let
to
it
fight
go.
for you, and if you have a part to play,
You
he
just
will
have
let
to
you
keep
know.
going.
He
And
will
that's
let
what
you
they
know.
did. They just kept going.
And in this life, when you look at first, when I saw my work being torn apart with the cross and the penny off and
Absolutely.
finding it thrown on the ground, at first I was like, oh, look at all the work I did. They ripped apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, Lord, they went first after you.
Right.
Right.
It wasn't
Jesus-
you.
yes.
They were, although you were just the vessel through which it came.
Exactly.
Their ultimate problem is with God.
Well, even if someone steals at a store, any store, my store, whatever
Yes.
store, it's not my store, it's his store, but it is his
Yes.
gifting. They're stealing from God because it's one of our commandments. Thou shalt not steal.
Yes.
And so where you are accountable, yeah, someone can call the police and say someone's stealing, But the real accountability is that person with God. And then as a store owner, we have a duty to report it, of course, if we're able to catch them. But at the same time, if we don't, they're accountable to the Lord before
Yes.
me.
Yes.
And
Well,
that,
and they're also choosing the thing that carries the most weight and power and value
yes,
because they think that's going to cause the greatest setback.
yeah,
If they can get us into a fence, that is a setback. Because if we get into a fence, then we want revenge.
exactly.
And we don't want what the Lord
We
wants.
become like 'em.
We become the
Well,
thief. We become the
exactly.
backbiter, the naysayer,
Just like them.
See, that's what I see in all of this.
and that's
Not
awesome.
necessarily that the enemy. When I see what the enemy is, I see a warning of the nature of humanity without God, without seeking His
Yes.
counsel and His direction. Is that we all have that nature
Mhm.
where
Yes,
we
we
will
do.
become just like them.
Yes, and it is easy to happen.
Yep.
But I love what they did. So, after they prayed, we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, and the Arabs and the Ammonites and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead in spite of them yakking at them and making fun of them and putting them down, and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. So anger, you see the anger is coming up. So what did they do? They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. But what did the Jewish people who were rebuilding the wall do?
Nevertheless, we
Prayed.
made our prayer
Prayer.
unto God and set a watch against them day and night. Watch and pray. I've heard that somewhere.
I've,
Watch and pray. Yeah.
I've watched that. I've
well,
heard that
you know,
somewhere.
we're called to be watchmen on the wall. That's why.
Watch and
A
pray.
watchman on the wall.
Even if it's half built.
Exactly.
Because we can't stop. Because it'll
No.
never get built. So, people are always going to come against good. Evil is natural. It is literally, it is innate in us, like it or not. People call it original sin. Someone said to me one time, well, how can a baby be sinful? I said, no, it's not that the baby is sinful. It is the baby is born in a sin-filled world
Yes.
and will not be able to escape it.
Yes.
And so, and the thing is, it's just our nature to be selfish.
You don't
and
have
demanding.
to teach a child to lie.
No, you
No.
don't have
Did you steal the candy?
to. No.
They already
you don't,
know.
You don't have to teach that. It really is indicative.
Yeah,
You have to teach telling the truth.
It's
not
inherent.
lying.
Sin is almost inherent in
it
this.
is.
And so, you don't have to teach that, but you do have to teach forgiveness, mercy, and grace. And that's,
But the conspiracy, if they can't do it individually,
Individually.
then they conspire together.
Right. Well, let's get a little bit further down the road. We're at verse 10. Meanwhile, the people of Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. Uh-oh. Meanwhile, the people of Judah said, the strength of the laborers is giving out. There's only so much you can do.
yes.
And there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall. So something's happening inside the camp that is doing what they think is right, even though they're praying. They're getting
Right.
exhausted. Also, our enemies said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and will kill them and put an end to their work. Then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, where, talk. Wherever you turn, they will attack us. Therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall
Watch and
at
pray.
the exposed places. Right. Posting them, notice how, by families. What's the strongest link we have? It's our families.
Yes.
Who will I protect first? My children,
Yes.
my mother, my father. They're the ones I'll promote. And if you separate me from my family, which is what's happening right now in this, I'm getting very, I am reaching the point I have to get home. I don't care about this virus. I don't care if my grandchildren
Yes.
bring it to me. What is worse? I only have a few more years left. What am I going to do? Be separated from my family from this time forward? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave this place called Branson and Springfield,
Yeah.
which I love dearly, and at least go for a long weekend, which I'm planning, folks, surprise to my kids if they hear this. And I'm planning to surprise them.
Awesome.
I am planning to surprise them
Oh,
and be there.
Susan.
And they're going to go, but mom, don't worry. I'm here. And if something happens to me, at least I'm with family. You know, people are making fun of the president saying, you know, the virus in a way was, he's not meaning it is a godsend, but in a way it was a godsend for him to experience the virus, to know that he could get through it, that he could bring more healing through a new medicine that helped him, maybe to others.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the thing is, even though the devil put it out there, what the devil meant for evil, God meant for good.
I find it interesting that, you know, we were quarantined this year, all of us, at some
Yes.
point or another.
Not the sick people.
No. But during that time, families got together and spent time together. Before it was about my job, my career, where
Nothing. It was about
nothing. It was
anymore,
nothing
really.
that was of value, but they were forced
Right.
by this virus to become of value to their families.
Well, it's interesting you said that, but I've been forced to be away from my family because I have family in Texas and family in New York.
And I mean, my family's in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and yours in Massachusetts. And, you know, it's like, Mom, don't come here because, you know, they've got a little bit of an outbreak here. It's less than 1%, for
Right.
heaven's sake. Can I get it? Absolutely. Is it real? Absolutely. But I am reaching a point that I only have so many years left.
Yes.
So if it's 6 months left, and even it could be 6 months with a heart attack, come on, let me go be with my family.
The next section here really
Yes.
speaks to all of this. It says, "And I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles," verse 14, "and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, to everybody, be not afraid of them.
Right.
Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses." He made it personal.
Thank you.
He made it personal. Don't be afraid. Remember God and stand for your family.
And I'm going to use another word that is used in my Bible versus terrible, which terrible means he. He can be terrible.
Well,
But
the Old
but
English
the word
is
is
awesome.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
what I wanted to say. Great and awesome. And fight for your families, your sons and your daughters,
Yes.
your wives and your homes. And, you know, I'm going to tell you, not everyone has this intact home anymore.
No.
So the thing is, what is your family and who are you going to fight for?
Right.
And that becomes important. I see people here fighting for Acts Ministry. I think that is phenomenal
Absolutely.
because we're touching lives little bit, by growth, and that is powerful. So I'm going to finish this chapter. When our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall. We all returned to the wall, each to do our own work. So are we going to stay hidden in our houses, or are we going to return? And some people need to be in their homes.
Yes.
I'm not trying to say
No.
get out there or whatever. But you guys got out in the street and you stood in Branson and you
Yes.
stood for life. Wasn't that it was you stood for life and lined the highways. And that is powerful because that's one of the problems of God lifting his hand from this country because we've turned away into the wicked ways.
Absolutely.
And we surrendered ourselves to that. From that day on, half of the men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall, who carried materials, did the work with one hand, and held a weapon in the other. And each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me. What does that mean? The man who sounded the trumpet was always with the leader.
Yes.
He was right beside him, ready to put warning out to the people at the wall. Then I said to the nobles, "This is a strong leader." The officials and the rest of the people, "The work is extensive and spread out, and we are widely separated from each other along the wall. Wherever you hear the sound of the trumpets, join us there. Our God will fight for us." So we continued the work, and with half the men holding spears, from the first light of dawn till the stars came out. At that time I also said to the people, "Have every man and his helpers stay inside Jerusalem at night, so they can serve us as guards by night and as workers by day. Neither I, nor my brothers, nor my men, nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapon, even when he went for water.
Yes.
They were prepared.
Absolutely.
You're not
Watch
go-
and pray.
Watch and pray,
Right.
and be ready to
And be
move.
prepared.
Wow. Powerful. I
Yes,
love
ma'am.
Nehemiah. It is so pertinent. I was going to wait until after the elections. I don't think it's time to wait. I think it's time as Christians that we need to know that our walls as Christians have been breached
Yes.
because we have not stood and watched. We have not been watchmen. We've allowed words that are not biblical to seep into our culture. We have allowed psychology and all of that to go. With that said, folks, it's been a great day.
Yes, it
So, a
has.
penny for your thoughts. Are you ready?
Yes.
Dana, what's your thought today?
Watch and pray.
It's the same. It really is. Watch and pray. This is the time to stand.
Stand.
Not now, later. Now,
Now.
because we don't want our country to be gone.
That's right.
Kneel and pray.
There you go.
Stand and pray.
Kneel and pray, stand and pray. And if you're kneeling, just make sure you got someone at your back.
And your
Yes,
That
Pardon,
is true.
Jay?
that is true.
Your penny for your thoughts today?
Yeah, I think our nation faces complex problems, and it's a very interesting thing. It's how they faced them one little thing at a time, and we're prepared and
Yeah.
had a good leader.
Well, and the thing is, we've got to be able, I love that. We've got to be able to stand.
Yes.
We need to know how to kneel. We need to know how to pray. And we need to know how to speak out and to do.
Absolutely.
To do. To
Amen.
do what is right. Because there are times when all of us just want to curl back in our shell.
Absolutely.
So with that said, y'all have a blessed week. We're so
Bye.
excited. Penny for your thoughts
Bye.
next week. Don't miss it. It's going to get better. Thank you, Jay, for joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be
Yeah.
We love y'all.
Yeah. Have a blessed